If you look up the definition of play, you will find the following: to occupy oneself in amusement, sport, or other recreation. But if you look further, you may also find this: to engage. Often when we think of play, we do not necessarily think of it in the context of learning. Words such as rigor and standardize are unfortunately what we often hear in the context of education. So where does play fit into all of this? With the world moving so fast, John C. Brown, someone who talks a great deal on the idea of play, says the following: in a world of near constant flux, play becomes a strategy for embracing change rather than a way for growing out of it. Think back to my own life growing up and the influence that my parents had on my learning. They both had immigrated to Canada from Greece and had started in this country with nothing. As they had worked extremely hard, they eventually bought their own restaurant. Being in a small community and wanting to be successful, they had to continuously keep up with not only the demands of customers, but also continue to build relationships with those that they served. They embraced change and were eager to always try to be creative with what they did, while also always adding an element of fun. This definitely trickled down to our family, where it's quite hard to get attention. So as kids, our family would often be eager to share some of the fun we had in our own little creations, although that seemed to sometimes get out of hand. I see the same eagerness in my own brother with his children and how he constantly is willing to share their world and the fun they are having. The problem is we too often lose a lot of that in school. The rest of our world is open and continuously in flux, where often our schools can be closed and stagnant. What I have seen in the last few years in my own learning is that people are putting themselves out there, using social media to not only engage in what they're learning, but also to connect and create ideas with others. As I struggled through this project, I thought that there'd be no better place to go than to start sharing my work online. As I shared my struggles and ideas, people from around the world continued to offer suggestions and help. They were passionate not only about their learning, but mine as well. This definitely enhanced my learning through this entire process. While we have only begun to see this type of open and public learning start to happen within our schools, I have seen many places outside of school eager to share their environments and some of the creative things that they are doing just for fun. It is amazing to watch how they not only inspire ideas, but how they inspire emotion.
Now I can see that we're falling apart from the way that it used to be. Yeah, no matter the distance, I want you to know that deep down inside of me, you are my fire, the one desire you are.
Hello. Hey, what's going on?
So how do we bring that type of engagement into learning? As I've gone online and publicly shared not only what I'm doing, but also sometimes my frustration, people have been more than willing to help and share their ideas with me, as well as create these ideas alongside. I think play is something that is always engaging, but sometimes can come with frustration. Often though, we have to become comfortable with not knowing the end result. This is something that is hard for many educators, especially in a public forum. What I have found fascinating though is watching a ton of educators share their own learning on topics outside of their work publicly and online. Dean Cheresky and Shannon Smith have both been playing in public, where they are sharing learning something that is totally new to them. Dean the guitar, Shannon the clarinet. Although they have both struggled in this space, you can see that their engagement in the process has made a difference in their learning as well as the learning of others. Can you tell us, I saw that you're doing some videos online with guitar. Can you kind of just tell me about that and what it looks like?
Well, The idea of it comes from the fact that we talk about being lifelong learners all the time, but in many cases it's just talk. And so how do we show students, how do we show each other that we actually are learning? It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to show it. So actually a colleague of mine, Ewan McIntosh from Scotland, last year wrote a post about a 100-hour challenge of what could we do if we devoted 100 hours to learning something. And I know the context of his post wasn't exactly what I did, but I took his idea with this notion of being lifelong learners and learning in public, and thought it would be worthwhile to have pre-service teachers, that's who I teach at the University of Regina, to explore what it means to learn, first of all, and second of all, to be models and to show themselves learning in public. And so that was kind of the inspiration behind this project or this assignment for pre-service teachers.
I chose the clarinet because music is something that I don't have a sort of natural affinity for. I love to listen to music, but I consider myself to be pretty lacking in the musical talent area. And after the first time that I posted on my blog my initial attempts at making a sound through the mouthpiece, which if you go back and look, I wasn't very successful, I got some feedback from a parent volunteer who had watched the video with her daughter the night before. And apparently her daughter said, you know, Mrs. Smith's reed isn't mounted properly on the mouthpiece. So she shared that with me, and it sort of got me thinking about the types of feedback that I might get and what it might do to students to issue an explicit invitation to them to watch my videos if they want and to provide some feedback.
You know, the feedback I'm getting from many of them is that it is really challenging and hard, and it's supposed to be. So this isn't about them achieving a certain level of expertise or anything. It's about experiencing what it's like to learn in public, and what happens when you devote concentrated effort and time towards learning something new.
As the conversations evolved, I was able to engage in this really professional dialogue with them around, you know, risk taking and what are we asking our students to do and are we modeling that ourselves, and being really open and transparent about the fact that that's what I wanted to encourage when I was learning how to play the clarinet. I wanted to create a safe learning environment where people could take risks and try something new.
If we are going to become teachers, and if we are going to embrace this idea of lifelong learning, then I think we need to be learning experts and not just teaching experts.
Watching Dean and Shannon openly embrace their learning online and playing publicly, I thought a lot about how this works in my own context. If schools are to promote this very open-ended public learning, I believe it is imperative that leadership embodies this as well. Fortunately, I've seen my own superintendent go online and model the risk-taking to our schools that will help to build creative and innovative environments. Recently you started trying programs such as Twitter and you started blogging. You've also kind of immersed yourself in using an iPad. Why did you start doing this, and what do you think the impact has been on your own learning?
Well, the first thing for us in Parkland School Division, we are a learning organization, so it is about the learning that each of us needs to undertake to be better at what we do. So for me, looking at learning how to use Twitter, learning to blog, how to blog, and getting involved in that world that was so unknown to me has provided me an opportunity to connect with other administrators and follow some great educators and get our message out about Parkland School Division. And I think we have to use every avenue we have available to us to make sure that we are sharing our knowledge, sharing our understanding, and providing the best education possible for our kids.
So traditionally, many people are very uncomfortable learning in public, and I know that it's not all come really easy to you. Why do you think that's important to show that, you know, to learn as opposed to just giving the answer? Why do you think it's important to do that publicly?
Well, that one has been a huge challenge because in my generation, we were the ones who to be the teachers and to have the knowledge and impart that knowledge upon others. And this has been a new direction for me in that I've always been a learner, but to open up my learning and share my challenges, it has been a challenge. In that even blogging, the first time I blogged, in fact, I think it might have been you, George, who talked about it being too long. But there was, it's important for me to understand the challenges that go along with that, and I'm learning to ask the questions of that I need to ask. But the challenge has been to know what questions to ask. I didn't even know that. Using Twitter was so new to me. Even now, I think twice as a superintendent about whether I put that information out or not. Because publicly sharing our challenges is a new direction for many of us. But as a result, I think I'm learning more and more every day and becoming more passionate about what I'm doing. I go back to the learning organization. The biggest impact for me is that we continue to move forward as a learning organization. We're not just about the kids learning, we're about it as staff learning. And this will provide an opportunity for our teachers, because we're a large enough division, not overly large, but large enough that some of our teachers are far apart from each other, to connect with each other using technology, and for us to connect with other people throughout the world so we can enhance our learning opportunities for our kids.
As a result of organizations and leadership learning so publicly, we are seeing more teachers become comfortable with putting themselves out there, and also with the idea that they don't have to have all of the answers. Not only is this impacting the way they learn, but more importantly, it is impacting the way they teach.
Twitter was the sort of the constant support of new ideas and new thinking, and putting my ideas out there and saying, hey, I tried this and it didn't go great, or I tried this and it was great, and getting sort of that constant motivation. And I just got wrapped up in it. And so the next thing I started was my blog, and I didn't know anything about blogging or how to, connect with people or what I was going to write about. I just sort of felt like I had a lot of things to say. How that's changed my teaching or what I'm doing in my class, I've started my classes blogging, all of my classes. I have I have grade 9 K&E social studies, and I have grade 8 social studies and grade 8 language arts. They've all been blogging. And so it's just sort of changed the way. I've never done that before. And I found it really rewarding. The kids like it. They are always asking me, can we blog today? Are we blogging today? What are we doing today? Well, I think the kids are seeing sort of that I'm starting things without knowing where the end is sometimes. And that we're all sort of learning together. They're definitely, part of what they're doing also is like the 184 blog that you've started, and getting the kids to blog about what they've learned and reading other people's blogs as well. And that has helped them sort of see that sometimes we're just learning stuff and we don't necessarily know where we're going, and failing is okay, and things like that. So I think that sort of fits in with the playing. Like lots of times I'll be looking at stuff and I'll be saying, I don't know how, they'll be asking me, how do we do this on Prezi, or how do we do this? And I'm saying, I don't know, let's sit down. So we sit down together sort of and look around and see what we can find. So yeah, I think it's really cool because it's brought my relationship with the kids closer. I've always had that as I think a strength as a teacher, but it has helped a lot this year to sort of sit down with them, and we're learning together. We're doing a lot of this stuff together, like you say, playing with it as we go, okay, let's play with it, let's click around here, let's see what we're doing here, let's write this and see what happens. And yeah, it's helped a lot that way.
As teachers become more comfortable with this learning, we are seeing our students and parents also seeing the power of sharing the process so publicly. Recently, Alex Wolford, a grade 3 student in one of our schools, shared in our 184 Days of Learning project her love of writing. What was amazing was watching people from all over the world both encourage this love while also trying to push Alex's own learning. Instead of having only one teacher, Alex was now able to share her love with the world and enter into a global classroom. What was amazing about this process was that although Alex was learning, many people, including Alex's mom, were learning alongside of her.
I learned that I can be very, very passionate about writing, and that I can write.
I had no idea that she had a dream to write and publish a book, to be a famous author someday. I knew that she enjoyed writing. I thought I knew my child, but having that process of having her do that, and then me finding that out, was a wonderful thing. I don't know, you think you know your kids, but then something like that goes out there and it just shocks even more, and it made me extremely, extremely proud. To be able to share a love of something, or to share what you've learned with anybody, I think is a good thing. it's a wonderful thing. It made me very proud because not only did it go out to the world, but she got comments back from people all over the world. And I think that's very interesting to know that we all share the same kind of passion for things and that type of thing. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Why do you prefer people seeing what you're writing?
So they can see what I can do, and then they might try as well.
Learning is and should be messy. If we think about the way we learn outside of school, we often are inspired by our passions and love for things, yet we do not know necessarily where we are going. It is the process that engages us, not necessarily the product. I recently read an article in the Huffington Post by Daryl Hammond. He discussed how the lack of play in our schools will not cultivate the next Steve Jobs. The following quote stuck out to me. We are denying them opportunities to tinker, discover, and explore. In short, to play. When we push the idea of play and learn how to do it publicly, it is the engagement and passions of others that will continue to push our own thinking. We should no longer have this engaging learning solitary and cut off from the rest of the world. It is too easy for us to share to not take advantage. Through this process, I have reinforced my beliefs that this public learning is so much more powerful. Throughout this video, you have not only seen people step up to help me in interviews, but background songs, titles, and credits. They were all made by educators and kids around the world. It is amazing to watch how people will share their passions with one another to make us all better. The next time you have the chance, go outside and watch the kids play. Watch the joy they have in that process. Look for learning. Watch how easily they connect with one another. We need to bring that engagement into our classroom and into our own learning. Then we need to share it with the rest of the world. They should be running in from recess with the same excitement that they run out. If we are truly to be learning experts, we have to get out in that digital space and start playing and engage in what we love. If we can show the power of that space for our own learning and our own relationships, we can leverage it in very powerful ways for our kids. So, what's the first Wham song you're gonna learn?
Yeah, I don't think so.